you get a multi-man match, and you get a multi-man match, and you get a multi-match, and you also will get some promos, and a debut that nobody expected, a return that everybody was hyped for, and also a main event of a multi-man match. Hooray! What a way to close out the TNT era. I'm John Renton with my review of AEW Dynamite New Year's Super Smash! Okay, maybe I can't do that because I don't want Nintendo to come with the hammer down on me, because I don't want anybody to come with the hammer down. I want them to come down on me. I'm going to keep saying this stuff to make it as uncomfortable as possible, but let me know your thoughts on this show in the comments, please. This show had its moments, but honestly, for a big broadcast, Dynamite, their flagship show, a lot of the show just kind of blended together. But it wasn't Daly's Place. It's kind of funny that they were in Daly's Place for so goddamn long during the pandemic, and understandably so. It's a great atmosphere, especially with a full crowd and a full loud crowd, and this crowd was pretty goddamn loud, and there were some moments where they brought things up more than they would have been had the crowd been a little bit tepid. And I do like how it's an amphitheater. It is a great atmosphere. Hopefully they cannot come back to Daly's Place for a bit, though, because after having that, leaving right at the end of June, where Jim Ross did say, iconically, we'll see you next time on WWE Dynamite. Now it's a meme. Now it's a joke. And speaking of JR, I am so happy that he's back. Cancer-free. Big pop. He was really emotional, and good for him. I really hope that he can continue to, share his passion, share his love for professional wrestling that he's been doing since the fucking 70s. And as long as he's happy and healthy, that's what matters most. And then we start off with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus coming out to a pop. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's the Tarzan Boy and Christian Cage kind of getting a pop. And then Lucha Bros getting a pretty good pop with Alex. Alex is just great. Alex had so much. Penta says, FTR and the Hardy Family Orifice make their entrance. And, okay, look, I get it. I get why they were doing these multi-man matches. And yes, we might get a couple good matches out of some of these, but it's getting stale and it's getting annoying if I'm going to complain about it on New Japan Pro Wrestling shows, like not even their Road 2 shows, but I mean, even some of the matches on the Wrestle Kingdom 16-night 1 and 2 cards are multi-man matches. It gets a little stale unless it's called for. This just felt like, everybody get in here, and that was about it. So, Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus. I am going to say this much. Marco Stunt doesn't appear to be allowed within 50 yards of AEW. And that is probably a good thing because nobody wants to see him in the ring anymore. But it is Jurassic Express. Christian Cage, Lucha Bros versus FTR and the Hardy Party. And also the Blade and George. Joel, I think, has some potential. I've seen some of his matches on Dark and Dark Elevation. And good grief, Aubrey. Good grief, Aubrey looked good tonight. And I love Aubrey. Aubrey's a tremendous referee. Met her multiple times. Local talent here. Great that she is succeeding on such a big stage. She's a tremendous referee, as I've said, and really, really nice. They do plug the fact it's the last Dynamite broadcast on TNT. Rampage is apparently staying on TNT, but Dynamite is going to TBS next Wednesday, so adjust your cocks accordingly. I think that's how that saying goes. A multi-man match, that's new. I didn't care. It wasn't that it was bad. It wasn't that there weren't good moves. There was some good action. And I love the Lucha Bros, but a lot of their stuff feels samey because it's Phoenix defying physics when physics, forget that Phoenix exists. And we do get Luchasaurus chants. Everybody just does everything. There's a messy melee. Everybody dives. There's a miscue with Penta and Christian Cage. And then the big rig on Christian 1, 2, 3. Remember when it was made a big deal that Christian was coming to AEW? Or it was made a big, like they had a big, free agent signing. And then all of a sudden, like it's Christian Cage and everybody, some people are happy and other people are kind of like, eh. And that's unfortunate for Christian because he still has a lot left to offer. I just don't think he's going to be wrestling that much anymore. I mean, think about it. He beat Omega on Rampage to win the Impact World Championship and then lost it to Josh Alexander, who immediately lost it to Moose because Impact takes 1 step forward and 3 steps back by putting it on somebody like Moose. And I mean that because Moose has a checkered past, shall we say? Yeah, let's just go with that. That being said, this match was fine, and it leads to something a little bit later that was kind of inevitable. And then we get another multi-man match. Oh, sweet Jesus. Eddie, Santana, and Ortiz versus 2.0 and Garcia. A little bit more story to this one. I will give them that much credit. Eddie is massively over, organically, insanely over. And it was just a brawl. That's basically all it was. The crowd was into it. And Eddie got a hot tag, but then immediately tagged back out to Santana. And then we get a roll up with tights on Santana 1, 2, 3. Oh well, the most devastating maneuver in all professional wrestling is invading everybody. It's invading every company. I think I saw a few roll-up victories on a few indie shows I was at, and I saw a few roll-up victories at indie shows I wasn't at, somehow. So anyway, we get beat down afterwards, and we get a belt to the ring bell rather, to Santana's head. And then Chris Jericho either missed his cue or just doesn't give a shit. He comes out and they keep playing the theme, trying to get people to pump up Chris Jericho's massive ego. And, boy, Chris Jericho's back not a moment too late. I really didn't miss Jericho. I don't know about y'all. Regardless of how I personally feel about the guy, I don't need to see him in the ring anymore. He can't go. He doesn't have anything to offer on commentary. And, of course, selfishly, his wife and mother-in-law were part of the January 6th riot, so guess what? He fucking deserves every bit of ridicule for that. So anyway, they keep the theme playing to soothe the goddamn ego. Poor Eddie having to be saddled with Jericho's what I wrote down. Pre-tape with MJF, Spears, and Wardlow. And how Punk just ran from him last week and everything. Oh, unsafe working conditions and all that stuff. And then there's some Wardlow dispute because he's saying you don't need to do this Powerbomb Symphony. You need to focus on the Face of the Revolution ladder match. Win some matches to get into that, and when you win that, you give it to me. Wait, what? Why would I do that? And then Sterling gets brought in, because apparently he's everybody's lawyer. He just has every contract and whatever, and reads his contract off in a fast, stagey fashion. And it's like, this is how it'll happen or whatever. Wardlow has given up all his rights and this kind of stuff, and the indentured servitude and all that, and says MJF will, become the number one contender or whatever, but, the stuff with Wardlow just glaring at him. That's it. Shivani was talking to the faces of the 10-man, Jurassic Express, Cage, and Lucha, Lucha Bros come in. Let's just say that everybody just basically runs in there because these things are always so goddamn messy. Nobody gets any words out. Cage says, hey, how about we have a tag title match next week? And the inevitable happens and Jurassic Express gets the victory. In other words, Jurassic Express will lose, Cage will turn on Jungle Boy, and we will have that match on TV a few weeks later. Because Christian will work as a heel, and then probably, I bet you he has like a 1-year wrestling contract, and has a multi-year contract to be like a coach and stuff like that. I really don't think Cage needs to wrestle much after. He's going to be, 48, and he hasn't wrestled a ton, and the shine's kind of off of him. And also, he's had a lot of head trauma issues, so I don't know. I did like how Alex did say, Jungle Boy, if you want to be a star of the future, you need to let go of the past, which was a good line. So then we get the Wardlow with Spears versus Colin Delaney and Powerbomb Symphony as the crowd roars more and more. So yes, they're basically doing with Wardlow what they did with Sid in 89 and 90. Or by they, I mean WCW. Spears then hits Colin with a chair, and Wardlow is mad. Pre-tape with the Red Coal Dragon and also the Bucks. Bucks wearing shirts so goddamn loud I forgot to pay attention to what they say. Oh, wait. Even if I could have heard what they said, I wouldn't have given a shit. And also, Cutler was operating the camera. As long as Cutler's not on camera, I'm actually pretty happy with that. Nothing against the guy personally, but the shtick is old. O'Reilly says, I know we have heat, but, we need to win this match and this kind of stuff and whatever. And then we cut to Lambert, Sky, and Ethan. I will say this much. I have been super critical of Dan Lambert, the sheepish lion Dan Lambert, and his material and stuff like that, and why he is still back after getting his ass beat at AEW Full Gear. Sometimes his promos have worked. He's had good lines. He had some good lines here. He did say how Arn Anderson is one of his favorites, but seeing him with Cody is just sad. How he used to be a horseman, but now he's just a horrible person. Let's just say that. I'll choose my words carefully here so I don't get flagged, but yeah, we'll just go with that. A hewer. And he says, which is a perfect segue to Brandy, if that's even her real name. she'd be the first Brandy I've known that's not a stripper. Because he's in love with a stripper. She's popping, she's rolling. He's in love with a stripper. And I probably screwed that song up because whatever. Anyway, so he's just talking about just railing against her, and then Brandy calls him, a lesser talented Paul Heyman. She tries to come. Brandy is delivering some of the worst promos on wrestling programming. I know she doesn't talk that much. That one she did with Jade, which was amazing in how bad it was, and this wasn't quite that amazing, but it was still so bad. She says she was saying lesser talented Paul Heyman. Lambert says, I actually prefer Jim Cornette. And maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but I look at her face, I go, oh, she's mad. She is mad, and she is trying to hide that. Because Cornette has been justifiably critical of the Rhodeses, especially Brandy, who, let's be honest, actually, I'll get to that line here in just a little bit, but Lambert was actually on point for once. The stripper stuff, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. and he says, she did say, when was the last time you got beat up by a woman and didn't have to pay for it? It's like, he says that he's a black belt or whatever. You're a black belt. Well, I'm a black bitch. Good fucking God, this is terrible, but also awesome at the same time. And Sky's holding Lambert, the sheepish lion Dan Lambert back. And I'm just going to say right now, it's funny that Cody, in some interviews and stuff like that, in why he left WWE and why he is, trying to forge his own path, complain about nepotism in WWE. Yet, the only reason that his wife is on TV is because of who she's married to. I'm not saying she's not smart and can't contribute to society in many ways. I'm sure she's got a great college education. I'm sure she's smart. She's just not nearly as smart to wrestling as she thinks she is. She's not very good. She's a terrible TV presence. And it's just amazing to see how tone deaf both of them are. Cody, maybe knows what he's doing, everything, playing the fans like a fiddle. I'm not saying that Cody doesn't have ability, but flip-flop it and say that Brandy's the athlete. If Cody's riding on her coattails, if you will, why in the world would I not slam Cody for that? There is no reason for Brandy to be on TV. She's not good. She's terrible. The only stuff that she, lends, as far as, anything to AEW programming, the only stuff that she's been able to, give us is meme-worthy bullshit like this. She is not needed on television. So, video package on Paige and Danielson with, training footage, and while the announcers talk about the rematch. Jade entrance. Why did she skin a chandelier to make her outfit? Thunder Rosa gets a huge pop with Wolverine gear. Now, I have been super critical of Jade Cargill, and I will be critical here. I will also be praiseworthy. I love Thunder Rosa, as you can tell from this shirt. I also love Thunder Rosa because she is just an amazing wrestler, and I wrote down, first TBS semifinal match, how good of a magician is Thunder Rosa? Because Thunder Rosa is great. She's worked with a lot of inexperienced people just as experienced, people more experienced than her, and has always had a quality match, even if only given a couple minutes. And then she's had longer matches. She had that match with Britt Baker, the Lights Out match on Dynamite that was fucking incredible, and other great matches on NWA, even in Lucha Underground, and various independents and stuff like that. I saw one match that she had against Priscilla Kelly, now Gigi Dolan, about just over 3 years ago, which was just great. These women, these athletes just work so goddamn hard. Jade has the look and did a couple good things here. Rosa fed her and kept having to, basically bounce around like a Super Bowl. Jade does have the talent. She did get her knee targeted, and at times would sell it. Did hit a pump kick. She, did hit a nice pop-up Samoan drop, then figure four by Thunder Rosa, and then we get a rope break. We get some good stuff here. This is the best Jade match that has happened because Thunder Rosa kept, giving her so much and basically just, doing everything. I mean, earning her goddamn pay. Dragging Jade at times to victory. Now, I'm not saying that Jade won't get better, but you guys can think that Jade is really, really good now. That's your right. I'm just not going to say, oh yeah, she's fantastic in overlook what I see with my eyes. And then there was a ref distraction. Suddenly Rosa was thrown in the corner, and then somebody hit her with a bottle. Who the hell hit her with a bottle? Jaded for 3. And who's under the hood? It's Mercedes Martinez. That's a good signing. That's a very good signing. WWE fucked up by not bringing her in. Let me rephrase that. By bringing her in, but then not utilizing her. Here's Destination Ruby with a pipe to pipe 2 women at once. I've seen that in the movie before. Ruby isn't here to take her love to town, says JR. That was funny. And then we get to a long set of pre-tapes of promos and other stuff where I think it was at least 35 minutes between matches. Now, some of it was good. Other stuff, but it was what it was. They're basically just trying to get to the TBS era for their big launch, or big relaunch. Dark Elevation and Rampage recaps of Statlander and Layla Hirsch. I mean, I like Layla Hirsch, and I think Statlander's improved, so okay, if they want to have a match on Rampage, or maybe even a match on Dynamite, and have something where they can, where they can maybe have an 8 to 10 minute technical / something with technical wrestling and brawling, who the hell knows, but they can do some good stuff. So we cut to a Britt Baker pre-tape on the fluffer, Riho, and she's, talking about how she's going to beat her, and the announcers say that, Riho Fluffer has her number. I'll stop calling her that one of these days. And how it's a big deal. It's at Battle of the Belts on January 8th, which is apparently on a Saturday on TNT. That's cool. And CM Punk at Daly's place. He puts over JR after the loud cheers eventually subside a little bit. Says that he's so happy to see JR back. How he, this was the place or whatever that, where the Brody tribute happened. And when he saw that, he wanted to come here. And what Brody meant to his friends and family. Anybody that downplays what his career meant clearly never met the guy. I mean, Brody meant a whole lot. I mean, you saw the outloving of support and just adulation and everything from the moment he passed away, the tragic news, to now, to probably forever and a day. That's never. Then how MJF is a Twitter troll in the flesh, and that Piper laced up his boots while MJF laced up his running shoes. And MJF says he's done with me. Well, that's fine. I want to focus on bigger and better things as well. MJF, you are... basically, you are a bigger waste of money, or, you're a bigger waste of con money than Tim Tebow. Oh, and that got actually a pretty good reaction, because it's not wrong. Tim Tebow, great athlete, big fucking waste of money. And then he said a few pipe bomb lines or whatever. It's like, in this ring, on this microphone, on commentary, nobody can touch me. That was a nice callback. And then about MJF, it'd be a shame if somebody interfered on his road to victory. Not his Victory Road. We don't need Victory Road. Especially Victory Road 2011. The one that made everyone sad. And hate TNA for a time. So, pre-tape with Starks and Hobbs. How Dante screwed up. And apparently we're going to get Hobbs versus Dante 2. Hopefully it doesn't end like Hobbs versus Dante 1. Where Hobbs got rocked. And if you remember, Hobbs got rocked. And he was a little shaken up. And then we get Sammy with flashcards. He will be TNT champion once again. Pre-tape with Sheeta and Deebs. And Deeb... had said that Sheeta cheated. Well, she's like, well, it was your fault. You pulled the turnbuckle off. And, oh, you want a rematch? Bring it. Sheeta, and Sheeta's English is pretty goddamn good. Pretty goddamn good. She has really taken to it, and she can be, bilingual. She can, translate to Japanese and American fans. That's good. And she really is a star. Shivani's in the ring with Pillman Jr. How Griff walked into the House of Black. And Pillman Jr. tries firing up. Sometimes it felt a little forced. Other times it wasn't bad. And how he's been busting his ass as a second generation talent, and that Malachi, I did like that. And then that he doesn't have any fear, that that he didn't know his father, that he knows that he only has one life to live or whatever, and that he's not going to take it from him. And the lights out, Malachi's there, and then lights back on, and I think you can see somebody walking back there because somebody missed their goddamn cue. So we get Rampage, hype. Cody versus Ethan for the TNT Championship. Darby versus Bones. We cut to a pre-tip of the Acclaim talking. Bowens did have one funny line, "You're My Chemical Romance looking ass," and then Sting talks about main events. I treat every match like it was a main event, at least until about WCW 2000. Can't necessarily blame him by that point. Darby says, "I'm ready." And technology, or technique by Taz on Hook. So anyway, I'm going to definitely get that line in for Rampage. And then Ty and Anna versus the Bunny and Ford in a street fight. And the Bunny and Ford are going to bring toys. I saw a movie like this once. So, Dynamite on TBS. Hangman versus Danielson 2. Ruby versus Jade. Malachi versus Pillman Jr. Lucha Bros versus Jurassic Express tag team titles. Red Dragon entrance and then cut off by the Boom. Red Coal Dragon versus the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. And this is your main event. Seriously, this is your fucking main event. Undisputed Chance. No, I'm sick of the Orange Cassidy stuff. There was a stage bump by Trent. He sells his neck, and then we get Pile Drivers Beach Break 4-2. And then you've got to give the people what they want. God damn it, you got to, Excalibur. You just gotta. And then we get people running in. We get Cutler running in for absolutely no goddamn reason. And then we get the Bucks running in for absolutely no goddamn reason. How nobody heard those shirts coming, I don't know. And Chasing the Dragon 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's it. That's really all I have to say about that. I really hope that things get better once they go to TBS, because some episodes of Dynamite have been a little bit dicey. It is what it is. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.